Episode 2, The Cave That Waited 10 Days Later. Durga Puja vacations had started. Shash's mother had insisted. "You look like you haven't slept properly in weeks," she said, pressing a steel tiffin box into his hands. "Go to Dida's house for a few days. Fresh air, home-cooked food. No college, no canteen fights." Shash hadn't argued. He needed to get away. The bruises on his ribs had turned yellow-green. The cut on his lip had scabbed over, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Rohan's face. And then his own reflection in a puddle that day, bloody, swaying, eyes burning with something he didn't recognize. He didn't want to see that look in the mirror again. So he took the local train to his maternal grandmother's village, 2.5 hours north of Kolkata, past the salt lakes, past the endless green paddy fields that were just beginning to turn gold. His Dida's house was the same as always. Single-story mud brick walls, tin roof, courtyard with one ancient mango tree, and a small tulsi plant in the center. The moment he stepped inside, the smell of wood smoke, Nolan gur, and damp earth wrapped around him like a blanket. Dida hugged him so tightly his bruised ribs protested. "You've become thinner," she scolded immediately. "City food is poison." Shash smiled, small, tired. "I'm fine, Dida." He wasn't fine. That night he barely slept. He kept seeing birds flying away in terror, kept feeling that cold thing uncoil inside his chest. On the third morning, restless and unable to sit still, he asked Dida about the old stories she used to tell him as a child. "The cave behind the Kali temple," he said. "The one you said no one ever comes back from." Dida paused while rolling out luchis. Her eyes, cloudy with age but still sharp, fixed on him. "Why are you asking about that now?" Shash shrugged. "Just remembered." She studied him for a long moment. "That cave," she said finally, "is not for children. Not even for grown men who think they are brave." She tapped the rolling pin against the board. "But if your heart is restless, sometimes the old gods call." Shash didn't answer. That afternoon, he borrowed his cousin's bicycle and rode out. The Kali temple was 4 kilometers away, 1/2 kilometer past the last paddy field, down a dirt track lined with sal and shimul trees. The temple itself was small, weathered, almost swallowed by vines. A single red-smeared stone idol of Kali stood inside, eyes wide and terrible. Behind the temple, hidden by a thicket of bamboo, was a crack in the laterite hill. The entrance was barely wide enough for one person. Shash left the bicycle hidden behind a tree. He had brought a small torch, a water bottle, and, on impulse, the old folding knife his father had given him when he turned 16. He didn't know why. The crack sloped downward. Cool air breathed up from the dark. He switched on the torch and stepped inside. The passage narrowed, then widened into a natural chamber. Stalactites hung like teeth. Water dripped somewhere far away, slow, patient. On the far wall was a carving, huge, ancient, weathered almost smooth, a circle of interlocking spirals. At the center, a single eye. Below it, in faded Sanskrit characters, Kala sarvam harati, Kala sarvam janeti. Kintu kal chapi kala. Time devours all. Time births all. But what is the time of time? Shash stared at the words. He had studied enough history and mythology to recognize fragments. This wasn't standard Puranic Sanskrit. It felt older. He whispered the question aloud. Kalasya api kala kim. The torch flickered. A low grinding sound, stone on stone. The eye in the carving glowed dull red. The floor beneath him dropped 1/2 inch. Shash stumbled backward. A seam appeared in the wall. A hidden door slid open. slowly, reluctantly. Beyond it, another passage. This one sloped steeply downward. He should have turned back. Every rational part of him screamed to turn back. Instead, he stepped through. The second passage ended in a round chamber. In the center, a waist-high stone pedestal. On the pedestal, a fist-sized ruby. Not cut like a gemstone. Rough, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. The moment Shash looked at it, the ruby looked back. Not with eyes, with weight, with recognition. He felt it in his bones, something ancient turning its attention toward him. 3 figures appeared, shadows at first, then solidifying. Not gods, not demons, guardians. Tall, translucent, armored in stone-like skin. Their faces were featureless, except for vertical slits where eyes should be. The first spoke, voice like grinding boulders. "Speak your intent." Shash's mouth was dry. I don't know," he said honestly. "I just wanted to understand." The second guardian tilted its head. "Understanding costs blood." The third spoke softer, almost pitying. "Or will?" Shash looked at the ruby. His heart was hammering so hard it hurt. "I'm tired," he said quietly, "of being afraid, of watching my friends bleed, of looking away." Silence. Then the first guardian raised its hand. A thin red line appeared on Shash's left palm. Shallow, stinging. Blood welled. He didn't flinch. The blood dripped once, twice, onto the stone floor. The ruby flared. The guardians stepped aside. "You may approach." Shash walked forward. His legs shook. When his fingers closed around the ruby, pain, white hot, everywhere. Memories that weren't his flooded in. Flashes of battlefields, thrones, betrayals, crowns soaked in blood. And then, nothing. He opened his eyes. He was on his knees. The ruby was gone. His palm was healed. Only a faint red scar remained. The guardians were gone. But something inside him had changed. Something heavy. Something alive. He heard a voice, not in his ears, but inside his skull. Soft, ancient, tired. "You were chosen." Shash looked at his hands. They didn't look different, but they felt different. He stood up slowly. The chamber was empty now. Only the pedestal remained, smooth, unmarked. He turned to leave. Behind him, the eye in the carving blinked once,